Hi, everyone. I'm Lydia Benham with Whole Modern Parent, and I am here today again with our friends Andrea and Regina for part 2 of our anti-racist roundtable discussion. Andrea has brought along her daughter, Jada, again, and Regina has brought along her beautiful daughter, Esther, again. And Jada, you're beautiful too. Sorry, I just didn't say that in the intro. And we were actually just commenting how much Jada and Andrea look alike. Very, very beautiful mother-daughter set. So today we kind of just wanted to go about unpacking and processing what this looks like. We spent a lot of good time on our last video really dissecting and discussing and learning and getting educated by Regina on some words that we can use, on how to approach, things we can say, and it was extremely valuable. So I think one of the big topics that we really want to hit today is everything on social media. There's a lot of noise. Wouldn't you ladies agree?
Yes.
And I think we, including our viewers, and a lot of people have a lot of questions as to how to conduct themselves. I think we're learning what's the right thing to say. I think this is, and from my perspective, and Regina and Andrea, correct me if you see differently on this, but I feel like this is a learning experience. And I think we all have to just accept the fact that we're going to make mistakes through this. But it doesn't mean that we need to stop. I think we're just going to have to keep driving forward until we master what this communication and what this atmosphere needs to look like. So with that, let me just go ahead and start with Regina. What would be your best advice for, let's just take for a business owner that really wants to speak to their customers, and they, like we talked about a little bit, and I think both Jada and Esther also mentioned that people are posting and it feels a little bit emotionless. But I know, like, we have business owners and we have people that want to post in support of their friends, and we're either not doing it right or the message might be construed a little bit. So what would be your tips there?
Well, first, thank you for having us on again. And I
You.
want to piggyback off something you said earlier, which is, me educating you guys. I'm learning as well, and I think everyone is. While a lot of this climate in this era, if you will, is lived, I'm living in it and have been for some time. It is still a learning process for all of us because now everybody is wanting to discuss, the topic at hand, and which is racial inequality and injustices through a systematic racism. And so conversations are going to look different for different people. And when it comes to social media, I think if you have a social media platform and you are not Black, your Black friends are looking for something. Am I right?
Yes.
Or like something. Can you, like, even if you're not going to make a post, are you going to like my post? Are you going to comment on my post? And I know social media gets a little weird. I'm very much active on all platforms. But when it comes to these combative topics that can many times include a lot of emotion, I tend to draw back. And I think most people probably do. You have those people who are loud and out front and they're posting several times a day. And that is not my approach. Although through this process, I have been posting more on something that I normally remain silent on, via social media. I always have an opinion. Always have something to say. I just don't always feel like social media is the best place for that. So I can respect those people that don't want to use this as a platform. But I think if you have Black people in your life that you consider friends, coworkers, people that you share space and influence with, I think it's important to reach out for them. So for us, it means the world to know that you hear and you see what's going on. You know, I live in a predominantly white neighborhood. All of my neighbors have reached out at some level. And they may not make a post, but they've reached out, and that means so much. I've had text messages, DMs, and then I've had friends who have made posts. And so I think do it at your level of comfort. But I think at this time when everything is so charged, if you have people that are Black in your life that you love and that love you, I think it's important that they hear from you right now, because we are certainly looking. And the silence is so loud. It is screaming loud. And it hurts because it feels like, man, now, you know, at a time when everybody's talking about it, like, Sally can't reach out. Okay, I see you, Sally. Noted, you know, I got you. And it may not be like, oh, I don't want to, you know, some people may be more extreme, like, okay, Sally's canceled out of my life, you know. Some people may have that response. That's not going to be my response, but I am thinking like, oh, I got you. Haven't heard from you. And I've heard from my neighbor who stays like 5 blocks away, you know, true story. That's not an exaggeration. But, you know, Sally that I work with every day, I haven't heard from, you know. So, and I think when it comes to social media, there are different flavors, and I'm taking up a lot of time, and I'm going to wrap this up. There are a lot of different flavors. And that means, you know, hot, cold, you know, some people are coming in strong, you know, do this, be anti-racist, defund the police, you know. And then there are people who are just like, look, I'm standing with you. Like, for instance, my neighbor from 5 blocks away that I don't even see every day, like my next door neighbors, but she literally just said, I don't know what to say. I'm so sorry, but I stand with you. I'm like, wow, thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Rebecca, that's her real name. It's not a pseudonym. But that meant a lot. So I think if you preface what you're going to say and say, hey, I don't even know what to say right now, and I may be stumbling, you know, my heart breaks for Ellen DeGeneres. I think she had said people of color, and like, man, the hounds came for her. And then she had to make a tearful apology, like, I'm sorry, Black people, yes, not just people of color, you know. So people are stumbling and trying to find the right words, and I think that's okay. And I think as Black people, try to hear the intent of what somebody is saying. You know, we've been through a lot and we're still going through it. And so not to minimize our pain or the trauma that we've endured, but also try to hear the intent behind what someone is saying.
Yeah.
And so, Lydia, I know you, I love you. I know that you're coming to me, and even if you stumble through the words, like, I know you, you know, and I know.
Thank you for that.
You mean well, yeah, I think that matters. That matters.
And I think something I want to add for everyone. I think that this is like thank yous. I think it's never too late. I don't think the time is missed to reach out. I don't think it was last week. I think even if you are sitting with this and reflecting for a couple more weeks, I think there's still opportunity to reach out.
Some people need time to process too.
Mm-hmm,
and absolutely. Especially for a brand. How do we want to, okay, we're going to get into it. I'm jumping.
No, and I think that's great. Yeah, and just so everyone knows, Regina, your background is marketing, PR, content, so that's your wheelhouse. So I know you have a lot of opinions in that regard. Something I just want to kind of have Andrea chime in on, though, because we discussed a little bit about this in regards to like social media. I just want to get your personal opinion. Why do you think white people are so afraid to jump in and be outwardly vocal?
I think the biggest hurdle in all of this are the right words and what to use and what not, versus how do I say this? How is what I say going to be perceived? we just experienced this through our business today. We had posted something about, welcoming everybody in, and, we got a little bit of backlash, and it's still, I think we're all, like you said, Lydia, and so beautifully said, is that this is not a time to stop. It's a time to keep going. And we are all going to learn from this, and we will all be educated a little bit more on all of this. And I am so grateful for you, Regina, for being my personal teacher in all of this, and for, just these conversations, because just in the past, 48 hours, 72 hours, I mean, our conversations just here has opened up my eyes to, it's not my intention or what I'm saying, but it is how people will receive those words and what that means, and not using trigger words. But I think that that's the biggest hurdle for people, is that they don't quite know where to start, but then also exactly what to say. And so I think something as simple as what your friend Rebecca said to you, Regina, is sometimes that's enough. That's all you need to hear. And it's true. Silence can speak even louder volumes. I think the most important thing that we can all do collectively is act. And so whatever that looks like for everyone, is acting speaks a lot louder than words. We all know that, right? Action speaks way louder than words. So it is acting. It's partnering with certain organizations, if that's through the business. It's collectively breaking bread together. That's leading by example, and just acting on what we're saying. And sometimes sometimes the right words don't come out.
Right.
And so it's just that collective and mutual understanding of someone getting their point across and how it's being perceived.
Yeah. And I think it's going to look different for everyone, because everyone has a different lane. There will be people who are out in front, who are protesting. There will be people who will make the decision in this season to run for office. There will be people who will decide, you know what, I want to be a police officer. I want to join the force. There will be people who will raise children that will be empathetic and allies. And so I think something is required from everyone, because we are all Americans and we are all a part of this American experiment. That, I mean, it is. I mean, it's a 400-year experiment. It is. And we are all participants in this experiment that has a really ugly foundation of racism. It is systematic. Even if you are woke, if you a woke white person, but you were born here in America, you were born into a racist system. So even if your mother taught you and she marched in the civil rights movement, and then you know better, and now you're raising children, you are still a part of this systematic racism that has permeated every corner of American life, from real estate to banking to commerce. It is pervasive. And so we have to be active in dismantling that, and that takes time. And it takes conversations like this. And I think this season is the awareness, right? It's like, okay, now we are aware. A lot of people have been aware, but now, okay, a good deal of people are very aware now. More people than are unaware. Now we can start to have conversations. Now we can say, oh, I participate in this way. I mean, look at Serena's husband. He is was the CEO of Reddit, and now he is stepping down from the board and saying, please, I'm stepping down from the board. Put a Black person, not just a person of color, but put a Black person in my seat, period. Because he has a Black daughter. And that's important for him, that he can respond to his daughter in years to come that your dad did something to stand up for Black people. And so for him, it's like, what does your executive team look like? You know, that's been a lot of conversations, you know, okay, thank you for your post, you know, major brand. Thank you for your woke post. Now show me a picture of your executive team. You know, and if it's still very homogenous, then let's continue the conversation. Thank you for the post. Now, what are we doing to actively dismantle this system that we have all been complicit in?
Yeah. So I want to get the younger generation to weigh in on this, because I think essentially, I mean, your generation will do the work, really. We're here. I think we've already been socialized to a great degree. Like Regina said, we're the awareness generation. But I'm curious as to what you guys are doing. Have you made any changes in conversations with your friends? What does it look like on your level for, I guess, mixing it up a little bit or bringing more awareness? Are you guys making any changes? Are there any actions that you feel passionate about? Or are you just kind of letting it all play out a little bit before school starts, and then we'll get real serious again? Let's go ahead. I think Jada, were you about to say something?
Well, conversations with my friends have definitely changed, because I feel like over the past couple of weeks, my friends, this is like all we've been talking about. When I do talk to them, which is not a lot, but like whenever I do, we've been talking about this and stuff. But I think, again, with like the whole like social media situation, posting, like, it depends on what you post, because like if you're posting something but you're not like adding your own words to it, it just feels like you're not really doing anything. Like, if you're not saying anything about it and you're just posting basically what someone else says, even if you agree with it, it's on what, in my opinion, it just looks like you don't really care, and you're just, again, posting it to check the box. But I think, like, I don't know, I've been signing petitions and stuff. That's basically what I've been doing to help, and like donating. But yeah.
Esther, what about you?
Well, I think that the big difference in between your generation and our generation is that we have social media, which can be a powerful thing, good or bad. So it's easier to spread awareness. Like, without social media, I probably wouldn't even know about the petitions. But I've signed who knows how many, and I've encouraged my friends to sign them. I post links in my story. I post different tweets, like screenshots of tweets and stuff, and add my own input. And I feel like a lot of people are, again, not posting because it doesn't match their Instagram aesthetic, because that's whatever. And I've noticed that those people who really care about their Instagram that much, the only things they're posting are the cute little Black Lives Matter. Do you guys know what I'm talking? You've seen those, right?
Yeah.
They're like, you notice the design more than the words.
Mm-hmm.
And that says a lot about the person and a lot about what they understand and what they don't. So I mean, I always encourage my friends to talk to me if they like want to know more about what it's like being a person of color in America, not just Black people, just like all people of color. It's like hard for everyone. And many friends have reached out, actually. And then of course there are those few people who actually just give me hate instead. So I had to deal with that like last week, because my friends were coming to me crying because they were getting called names and they were getting bullied for posting stuff on their story and like encouraging people to sign petitions. So that's something I've had to deal with too.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, we've seen that, and we talked a little bit about that in regards to businesses with Andrea's posts and things like that, and we had some negative backlash as well. And I think I would say kind of, and I feel like, Andrea, this is, you're so heart, and like that's your love language, that you could really give us some advice in that area. But I think it's hard because I think we have to keep moving forward. I mean, people are going to say things, and it's easy to say, just ignore it, turn a blind eye. But I mean, it's emotional. I think we have high emotions right now. Andrea, what do you think? I feel like I don't have the words for it, but you can, I mean.
It's difficult, and it is uncomfortable, and it kind of goes back to that first, our first discussion that we had. But it's like, I'm going to take the Buddhist approach on this, truly, for just a second. And it's doing and acting with pure intention. So that looks different for everybody. And if you're putting pure intention into the world, and and it's good intention, it can only, that's one person's belief, and how they react to any decision or any situation in their life. There's always going to be naysayers, and that's okay. You don't have to agree with everyone, and they don't have to agree with you. That's life. You find your people that can lift you up and who can teach you, and the rest, you kind of have to drop the rope. This is a new saying that I've heard, and my husband actually shared it with me the other day, but it was a Reddit that he saw, and I was like, oh my God, revelation, drop the rope. Like, you do you post what you want to post, you act on, what you want to act on, and nobody can tell you otherwise. I do 100% believe that silence is speaking louder than ever right now. And so you have to do something. This is not the time to be silent, but I think whatever it is that you can do out of pure intention that's all you can do.
Yeah, and I like that, because I think the pure intention part, it does weed out if you're just, designing a pretty thing to put on your Instagram. It doesn't have the pure intention piece. So, I mean, in that regard, like Esther was saying, I think it does. And like Jada said, if it doesn't have the personal, your personal opinions or personal touch to it, then I wouldn't say it falls under that category. But I think for anyone that's posting things with that intention behind, I think we just have to take the Buddhist approach and keep doing it.
And again, I want to clarify too, there's good intention and there's very bad intention. And yeah. I think good intention cannot be messed with. Bad intention, absolutely. And with bad intention comes a lot of other things that are probably other topics that we can get into. But I think anything that is done with pure and good intention, that's what people have to focus on, and that looks different for everybody. That could be, a very simple, sweet text to a friend that needs it. But it could be, protesting, and really, there's a wide array of things that people can act on during this time. So yeah, I just think acting out of pure and good intention is the way right now.
So I think the next thing I kind of want to get both of your weigh in on is, we discussed a little bit about, and we're discussing that, the reach out. And also one of the aspects of reaching out was that I think we want to acknowledge that some people might still be in the pause phase. Are you seeing that with some of your friends? And I think that, and this is just my perspective, but it does seem is an overload from the social media and all of the things that are hitting everyone. What do you think? I mean, are we allowed to take a pause, reflection time, and then step back in? I know, Regina, you were saying what it looks like is everyone is different, right? We parent different. We have different diets. what's your opinion there?
So I think that, and I'll speak from my perspective, all of the social media, the notifications, the dings, the pop-ups, it's all very overwhelming for me. So I regularly, even before this happened with George Floyd, I regularly have to step away and take a break because it is all overwhelming. It causes a lot of anxiety for me, and it's just too much. So I imagine that there are other people like me as well, whether they were like this before George Floyd or after George Floyd. It's a lot of noise, and you're kind of paralyzed, like, what do I do? And even feeling like you should be doing something, but just not sure. I think it's okay to take a step back and process. And that is nobody's business but yours. It is none of my business how much time you need to process. What I care about as a friend is where you land. So if you step back and you process, Lydia, let's just use you as an example because I'm looking at your pretty face. But if you step back and you process, but you never really come out of that processing season, and you kind of roll back in the complacency of and the comfort and the privilege of your life, then that would be my biggest concern. You know, I want Lydia to get uncomfortable and lean in with me. Because guess what? I think for a lot of your Black friends, we've been uncomfortable. Code switching is a thing because it's a thing. Like, code switching wouldn't even be a thing if we didn't have to, like, and for those that don't understand what code switching is, it's almost like being able to speak different languages. I can go from speaking to Lydia in a Zoom call to talking to my daughter and telling her, look, girl, I need you to get in the living room and do, or if I'm back home in Arkansas or down in Hugo, I can really code switch on you then. Yeah, jump in.
I don't mean this in a rude way, and I'm not sure if it sounds rude, but
so careful with your words.
Yes.
Take your time.
I was in English class, and I was the only person of color besides this other kid who sat on the other side of the classroom. And my sister came into the class because she loves the teacher. We haven't really started class yet. I started talking to her, and I forgot that I was around different people. And I forgot to code switch, and then it made the whole class uncomfortable, which I think kind of says a lot because we're still in that day and age where we have to change for white people. And does that make sense? Yeah. Not in a rude, racist way. It's just that's the truth. That's America. We've always been taught to make sure we look proper so we don't feel so we don't offend or white people or feel like a threat to them
or be treated differently.
I also want to say something you were talking about earlier, like it's not your business how long it takes you to process, because it's a lot to process for me. And I know my little sister, she's 12, she's pretty mature for her age, and she cried watching the George Floyd video, which was a lot to take in because she doesn't cry that much. She's emotional, but she doesn't cry that much. So I knew that really hit hard for her because she knows we're different. We have to act a different way. We're not treated the same, but I don't think it really hit her that hard until she watched the video. So I'm kind of sad that she had to grow up that quickly.
But to connect all of that to what I'm trying to say, and that is Black people have had to be uncomfortable for a long time, and we've lost our lives when we didn't get it right every time. And so now that we're all kind of being brought into a different level of awareness, it's okay if you're uncomfortable. It's okay. Uncomfortable is good in the context of this conversation. It's really good. And the more uncomfortable you get, the more you're being made aware, and the more you're growing, and the more your eyes can open and see. I'd love to share this very short story.
Okay.
Super short. And it includes you and you, Andrea. We were on a trip, or a retreat.
Oh,
And
Oh God.
it was in Santa Fe.
Okay.
The second time.
Okay.
So, and one of our colleagues, I don't know how we started talking about racism, but and she was like, "Well, Regina, white people love you. You're not discriminated against." I was like, "Oh my goodness, girl! Every day, I just choose joy. You know, I choose joy. That's my middle name. That's my mantra. That's my mantle. You know, that's my contribution to the earth is joy." So, and I said, just to prove to you how much I deal with racism, I said, for the rest of the day, I'm going to point out every time I experience racism. She was like, okay, Regina. And I was like, okay, buckle up. And not less than an hour later, we were going to lunch. That little Mexican place with the rooftop. You know what I'm talking about? Andrea knows. Okay, so we walk in. I'm in the middle of you guys. It's 12, 13 of us. I'm in the middle. We're all chatty as we're going to be seated at our table. The hostess is leading us to the table. And then the hostess pulls me out of the middle of you guys and says, "Can I help you?"
Oh,
Me
no.
in the middle as I'm walking in with this group of women and chatting and talking with them all. You want to know if you can help me? I'm with them. And
Wow.
no one else recognized, of course, why would you? But, I was able to bring her. I was like, okay, we got seated. And I was like, so did you see that? She was like, what? I was like, yeah, the lady asked me if she could help me. She was like, what? I don't get it. And I was like, I had to paint the picture for her. And she was like, oh my God, like, I can't believe, like, yeah, just even the microaggressions happen all the time. Now, I had a good time. I continued to have a good lunch, but somebody else may have processed that a little bit differently and been pissed off, or may not have even joined the group in the first place because there's not enough of us, Mm-hmm. So it's layers to it.
Yeah. Well, and I like the term that you use, the microaggressions, because I think that's the systemic part of this. And
all day.
It's the small things, and it's just exhausting. It's emotionally, physically, intellectually exhausting. And I think that's one of the comparisons that we as white people, we don't know, but I think that we have to be sympathetic towards it, because I can't even imagine. I mean, by 12 o'clock, Regina, you probably are exhausted.
Yeah.
These 8 things that you've experienced already.
Right. And so I am uncomfortable every day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm uncomfortable every day.
Can I say something? I experienced this, like, I've been experiencing these little microaggressions since I can remember. Like, every time I go out with my friends, like, I'm always the odd one out. And I do have a pretty diverse group of friends, but I'm the only Black person in my friend group. So, well, I guess Stealth is mixed, but same thing. Anyway, I just learned, you just have to kill them with kindness. Just give them a nice little smile, and you just have to go on with your day. I mean, it always hurts, but I'm getting more and more used to it, which terrifies me, because that means we're not getting anywhere. If I'm getting used to it, that's like not a good thing. It sounds like a good thing, but it's not.
Yeah, and I think, Jada, is this something that you sympathize as well with? Do you experience? Yeah.
Yeah, the same thing. I'm mixed, but like that's still, I'm like the only partly Black person in my friend group. Like my majority of my friend group is white. There's like, it's sort of diverse, mostly white people, and then we have like a couple Hispanic kids. But like, it's just like Esther said, I am the odd one out, and I'm always like, I don't want to say targeted because that sounds bad, but like that's really the only word that I can think of. And sometimes my friends may say things that they don't mean in a hurtful way, but it just ends up being hurtful anyways.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes that our friends forget that we're Black. Does that make sense? I know Jada probably understands, but like they hang out with us so much, and most of my friends I've known since I was in about preschool or pre-K, and they've known me so long that they forget that I'm Black. They know that I'm Black, but they just forget. And so they're talking about these people, not trying to be racist, but they're talking about other people of color. Like, I can't believe they did that. Like, Black people steal and stuff. And I'm like, hey, I'm right here. Did you forget? Right. And it's not always that blatant. It's just like sometimes they make tiny little side comments, and they're like, they forget that I am one of those people.
And I think the adult version of that is, you know, my non-Black friends think that I'm okay because it's Regina. She's
You're
happy.
not like one of them. Oh my God, I've gotten that so many times.
I think adults know better than to say that, but you know, Regina's happy. Regina, everybody likes Regina. Yeah, thanks. You know, that's the joy of the Lord. But you know, I deal with it too. I carry this burden as well.
Yeah, and I think I think it's a silent struggle. I mean, and I think what's so powerful about this roundtable that we're doing with both of you is that these are real, raw stories coming straight from inside of our homes. And I think especially with Whole Modern Parent, what we want to do is show other moms and dads that this is what's happening in homes, and this is why we have to have these conversations in our homes. It's not, we can't just, like we learned last time, we can't just say we don't see the color. We have to see the color, we have to honor it, and then we have to actually process and unpack and walk through this, because I mean, we don't live with microaggressions, and I think it's our opportunity to really bring awareness to what's happening. And Regina, you honestly, you own it, you put on the facade and you wear it, but I think that you shouldn't have to. And I don't want you doing that around me anymore.
Well, I appreciate that. In a lot of spaces, my livelihood depends on it. And so I appreciate you being in a safe space and offering that to me. And that is great, you know. And I would think, like, my one of my very, very best and dear friends, I mean, we've been friends for 28 years, and white. I mean, Lily White with her green eyes and her pale skin. That's my girl, Valerie, you know who you are. But like, she's a safe space. Like, I can 100% be myself. And she can 100% be herself. And I think that's the beauty. My girls call her TT Val, you know, like she's family for me. But yeah, in most spaces, like, my livelihood depends on it. Being able to get a job and get a paycheck and continue to move up the ranks in my career to get a certain client. It's absolutely necessary.
Yeah. Well, and I think this will tie into part 3 of the series. I think it's like we discussed, learning with understanding. And I think that we as white people and other colors need to be accepting of some cultural distinctions. I don't think it's fair for us to set a model that you have to conform to to work with us. And so I think that that's part of the awareness and shifting. And I think that probably for closing out this roundtable, I think I want to leave everyone with something. And Andrea, if you want to weigh in on this, but I loved what Regina said about the safe space. I think all of us being a safe space for each other is more valuable than any kind of online rhetoric or, you know, all of that. But I think being that safe space, that feels good.
Mm-hmm.
It feels really good. I think in order to get to that safe space, though, is action on breaking down the barriers.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have to break down the barriers. So it's like, how can we wrap our heads around this collectively? I mean, yes, there is so much noise on social media. What is working? What's not? You know, being active, we know is working.
Mm-hmm.
What's not working are these just, I want to use the right term here, but what's not working are these idiots that are, you know, reenacting videos. It just is, it's terrible. And that's what's not working. That's not working because that's implanting little seeds of what, you know, it's terrible. It's horrible. And it's how do we come together to break down the barriers so that people do feel more at peace, that people have the safe space. And I personally, like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. I'd do it right now if I knew, but I don't know how to do it. And it's, again, probably it's a collective thing, but how do we essentially break down these barriers and these lines in order to get there?
Right. That's a great first step, is saying, I don't know how to navigate through this. Like, help me. I mean, Lydia's help. You know, I've had
all of this is help.
literally dozens of friends saying help, you know, and I'm saying just because I'm Black doesn't mean that I am, you know, I know all things Black. You know what I'm saying? I have to make adjustments too. And I keep going back to my homestay daughter, you know, being from Korea. I can't just be like, you're in America now, you need to learn our ways. We went out and bought all these books on Korean culture and the country. And I reached out to all my Korean friends. And I was like, you know, school me, like teach me, like, I don't know, help. I don't know what I'm doing, help. To the point, you know, she's going to hear me say this because she's in earshot, but like smacking is like off. Like, we do not smack, like close your mouth when you are eating food in my presence. But in Korea, that is like honoring your, like, this is some good food. If I am, you know, smacking and making noises and slurping, and I'm like, what is going on? Oh, okay. That's like me saying, you put your foot in this food, which is, look it up, put your foot in food, it means it's good. If a Black person says that about your cooking, that means you are really cooking really well. So yeah, I had to school myself on that. So that now when I hear her, you know, eating her ramen and she's slurping and doing all these, I'm like, okay, mama did good, you know, instead of like, oh my God. But I had to educate myself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I can't hand her a certificate with one hand. I got to hand it to her with both hands. Like, that's very big in their culture. So the education.
So I would just be interested, Regina, in a retreat setting or just in this small setting of ours, and maybe this is where we start. Maybe it's right here on this roundtable. But how do we make sure that everybody feels a safe space here? How do we break down the barriers so the next time we go to Santa Fe, Regina is not having to have any of those feelings? How do we make that a safe space for all?
It starts with these types of conversations. It's the awareness, and it's the call to action, which is for those who are needing to learn, saying, I don't know, help. If that is okay to say, I don't know, help me, please. And then for those that can, being willing to engage in conversation. You know, there are a group of people who feel like it's not my business to help you or teach you. We've been going through, you figure it out. You know, I've watched that said that. And I think there are some people who are going to have that posture, and that's fine. But for those that feel, I mean, for me in particular, it's part of my life's mission to be a bridge builder, to create relationship between people. Like that is part of my calling. And so, yes, I want to help, you know, and you're going to, I think other, you know, non-Blacks are going to have people like that in your life that are going to be like, yes, call me. Like I'm the friend that you call. Yeah, please call me before you do this or say that, or, you know, wear this or put this costume on your kid for Halloween. Please call me, you know. So yeah, it's the conversation. Awareness, you know, understanding that you're going to be uncomfortable through this, but through the discussion as we continue to build. So now that you're aware, you're probably going to be looking out. Like if we go on a retreat the next time, you're going to be like, okay, I'm looking. Oh, I saw how she was following Regina around the store. Excuse me, ma'am, are you following my friend? Like that's an ally, you know? Mm-hmm. Could you please not follow my friend? Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Y'all ready to leave this store? You know, that's an ally.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, I like that because I think that that's something, we're not looking for that stuff, but I think that now that we know, I think it's up to us to start looking for it. And you're right. And I think there have been a lot of questions about what an ally looks like. But I'd like to table that for our third part, because I think that ties in really well, especially with the learning with understanding and acceptance and going forward. Ladies, thank you so much for your time today. I really feel like what we're doing here is so critical. It's empowering, it's education, and it just goes to the core of what we're trying to do with Whole Modern Parent, which is really go through some of those uncomfortable conversations. And thank you so much. We're lucky to have both of you ladies for friends, and thank you so much to the lovely daughters. I appreciate you guys coming on. I know it's hard to dedicate this much of your time to a Zoom call, but I appreciate it. Thank you so much, and we will see you for part 3.
Thank you.
Thank you.